Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. We usually look at trends or history, but today we are opening up a document that, well, it pretty much acts as the operating system for the Indian workplace. We're looking at the Industrial Relations Code 2020.
And before you tune out,
Right. Before you think legal code equals dry compliance, let me just stop you right there.
please do, because that assumption would be a huge mistake.
Exactly. This isn't just paperwork. This is the rule book for power. It dictates how work, conflict, negotiation, and even strikes happen across the entire country.
It absolutely is.
It's the invisible architecture that decides what happens when a boss and a worker disagree.
Calling it a legal document almost undersells it. This is Act number 35 of 2020, and its mission is massive.
Yep.
It's designed to consolidate and amend this sprawling kind of messy web of older laws.
All about trade unions, employment conditions.
Exactly. And dispute settlement. It extends to the whole of India, and it changes the game for both the CEO and the machinist on the factory floor.
That's what jumped out at me reading through it. This isn't just checking boxes. It covers everything from how a union gets recognized to what legally counts as a strike.
It even dictates how a worker gets paid if they're suspended.
The stakes are incredibly high here.
They are. The core tension this code tries to manage is balancing the rights of workers with the needs of industries. Safety nets versus flexibility.
It's a delicate ecosystem.
Very. If you tip too far one way, businesses stall. Tip too far the other, and exploitation runs rampant.
So let's figure out where that balance lies. But, we can't talk about worker rights without defining who actually counts as a worker. Looking at Section 2, it seems like there's a bit of a velvet rope here.
Oh, this is a crucial distinction. And honestly, it's where the first legal battles often happen.
Okay.
The code separates employee from worker. Employee is a really broad bucket.
Covers almost anyone.
Right. Anyone working for hire or reward. But worker is the category that gets the specific heavy-duty protections under this framework.
So who makes the cut? Who gets the VIP pass?
Well, a worker is someone doing manual, unskilled, skilled, technical, operational, clerical, or supervisory work. Basically, people on the tools.
And this is the key part, right? There are exclusions.
Big exclusion. They slice off the top layer. If you're mainly in a managerial or administrative capacity, you're out.
Your management, not labor. Makes sense.
Correct. But it gets trickier with supervisors. If you're in a supervisory role, but you draw wages exceeding 18,000 rupees per month.
That is a very specific number.
It is. If you're a supervisor making 18,001, strictly speaking,
I'm in a different boat.
you fall out of the worker category for the purposes of this code. It's a sharp line in the sand between who needs this protection and who represents the company's interest.
Wow. Okay. Now, there's another category here that feels very responsive to the modern economy, fixed-term employment.
Yes.
We hear so much about the gig economy, contract work. How does the code handle that? Because those workers are usually the most vulnerable.
This is one of the most significant shifts. The code formalizes it, yes, but the insight here isn't the definition. It's the protection attached to it.
How so?
It explicitly states that fixed-term workers must get hours, wages, and benefits that are not less than a permanent worker doing the same work.
So that counters the classic move. You can't just fire expensive permanent staff and hire cheap contractors to do the same job.
That's the intent.
Yeah.
And there's the massive kicker here on gratuity.
Okay.
Traditionally, you need, 5 continuous years to qualify for gratuity in India?
Right, which leads to some employers firing people at 4 years and 11 months.
Unfortunately, yes. But under this code, a fixed-term worker is eligible for gratuity if they render service for just 1 year.
1 year, so it's prorated.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
It creates a safety net for people moving from project to project. They don't walk away empty-handed.
That is a huge shift. Okay, so all of this applies to an industry, but what does that even mean? Is a charity an industry?
The code is very clear on those boundaries. Industry is systematic activity for production or supply of goods. But Section 2 carves out specific exceptions.
Then not an industry list.
Precisely. Institutions engaged wholly in charitable or philanthropic services are out.
So you can't have an industrial dispute at a soup kitchen like you can at a car factory.
Right. It also excludes domestic service. And, maybe most importantly, sovereign functions. Think defense research, atomic energy, space.
Makes sense. You probably don't want standard dispute mechanisms halting a satellite launch.
That's the logic. National interest comes first in those specific sectors.
Okay, let's move to the collective side. Organizing. Trade unions. This is where the power dynamics really get interesting. If I want to start a union, what are the actual mechanics?
It's a numbers game, and the math is stricter than you might think. Section 6 lays it out.
Go on.
To apply for registration, you only need 7 members.
7? That seems incredibly low. I could get 7 people to agree on pizza toppings.
7 is just to fill out the paperwork, but to actually get registered.
Ah, here's the catch.
Right. The union must have a membership of at least 10% of the workers, or 100 workers, whichever is less.
Got it. So you can't have a tiny micro-union of 7 people in a factor of 1,000. You need buy-in.
It prevents fragmentation.
Yeah.
And once registered, the union becomes a body corporate, a legal entity.
Yes. Perpetual succession, a common seal. It can sue and be sued. It becomes a legal person.
Now, what happens in a workplace with multiple unions? The machinists have one, the packers have another. Who does the employer actually talk to?
This is one of the most critical parts of the code. Section 14, recognition of the negotiating union.
How do they pick the winner?
It's a numbers game again. We look at the muster roll. If one specific trade union has 51% or more of the workers as members,
51%.
then they become the sole negotiating union.
Winner takes all.
Effectively, yes. They speak for everyone. For employers, this is huge. It gives them stability. One contract, one body.
But what if it's fractured? Union A has 30%, Union B has 30%, no one has the magic 51%. That used to be a mess, total gridlock. So now the code mandates the formation of a negotiating council.
A council, so like a coalition government?
A very similar idea. The council consists of representatives from all registered unions that have support from at least 20% of the workers.
Ah, so there's a threshold. You need at least 20% support to even get a seat at the table.
Correct. And representation is proportional. It ensures that significant minority voices are heard. It forces a conversation.
That is a fascinating structure. Okay, before we move on, I saw a reference to political funds in Section 15. What's that about?
It's a separation of money, really. A union has its general fund for normal operations, but they can also have a separate fund for civic and political interests.
Like campaigning for a candidate?
Exactly. But the key protection is that no member can be compelled to contribute to this political fund.
So I can be a union member, pay my normal dues, but refuse to give money to their political cause.
Yes. And they can't kick you out or deny you benefits for it. It keeps the core function labor protection separate from the optional one, which is political activism.
Okay, so we've got workers, we've got unions. What happens when things go wrong? But maybe not strike wrong yet, just day-to-day wrong.
The code has built-in breaks for that. They're called bipartite forums. The philosophy is fix it in the room.
Right.
The first line of defense is the Works Committee, Section 3.
This is for bigger places, right?
Yes. Establishments with 100 or more workers. It has reps from both the employer and the workers, and the worker reps can't be outnumbered.
And their job is to, what, just promote good relations?
Their statutory duty is to promote amity and good relations. Think of them as diplomats, smoothing out differences on common issues before they become formal disputes.
Okay, so that's the Keep the Peace Committee. But what if I have a specific personal grievance? My shift allowance is wrong, or something like that.
For that, you go to the Grievance Redressal Committee, Section 4. This is mandatory for any place with just 20 or more workers.
A much lower threshold.
Much lower. And here's a detail I love. The chairperson position rotates.
Rotates how?
It rotates yearly between an employer rep and a worker rep.
Oh, that's clever. So one year the boss runs the meeting, the next year a worker does.
It keeps things balanced.
Yeah.
And they're on the clock. The committee has to complete its proceedings within 30 days.
Speed is key. If I have a wage issue, I can't wait 6 months.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about the rules of the workplace itself. Standing orders.
The rulebook within the rulebook.
It is. It's the constitution of a specific workplace. This applies to establishments with 300 or more workers.
300? So fairly large.
It is. For these places, the employer has to prepare draft standing orders based on government model orders. They cover the nuts and bolts shifts, attendance, termination.
So you can't just make up crazy rules. You have to follow the model.
You follow the model, and then you have to get them certified in a consultative process with the unions.
Now here's a scenario. Let's say the orders are set. But then the employer wants to change something big, like change shift timings. Can they just send a memo on Friday saying, new rules start Monday?
Absolutely not. That brings us to Section 40, Notice of Change. It's a vital protection.
A protection against what you might call shock and awe management.
That's a good way to put it. They must give notice to the affected workers. And the change cannot happen within 21 days of giving that notice.
A 3-week cooling off period.
Exactly. It provides time for objections for negotiations. You can't ambush people.
But let's say that machinery fails. The 21 days pass, negotiations fail. We're heading for a strike.
This is where the code gets very strict and closes some old loopholes. First, the definition of a strike itself.
I assume it's the standard stopping work, standing outside with signs.
It is, but it's expanded to include concerted casual leave on a given day by 50% or more workers.
Oh, wow. The mass sick day.
Exactly. The old, we aren't striking, we just all happen to be sick today. The law now says no, that is a strike.
That is a game changer. So if it is a strike, what are the rules? You can't just walk out.
No. Chapter 8 lays it down. You cannot go on strike without giving notice.
Notice again. How much?
At least 14 days before the strike. And that notice is only valid for 60 days. So you have a window.
That 14 days is designed to force one last frantic round of negotiation, isn't it?
It is. It prevents lightning strikes. And you can't strike while conciliation is pending. If you violate these rules, it's an illegal strike.
And the consequences are severe. Loss of pay, disciplinary action.
Correct. It strips workers of legal protection, and the same rules are mirrored for lockouts by the employer.
A two-way street.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say the dispute just won't end. We end up in the tribunal. The code restructures this too, doesn't it?
It does. Section 44. Previously, these were often run just by judges. Now, every industrial tribunal will have 2 members, a judicial member and an administrative member.
Why add an administrative member?
It brings practical experience into the judgment. The administrative member has to be a senior government official. So you have a judge who knows the law and an administrator who knows how policy and government actually function.
Theoretical law meets practical administration.
It's likely to make the rulings more pragmatic.
Now, there are 2 protections in this section that feel very human. First, suspension. If I'm suspended pending an inquiry, how do I eat?
A terrifying position. The code mandates a subsistence allowance in Section 38.
So they have to pay you even while you're suspended?
Yes. For the first 90 days, the employer must pay you 50% of your wages.
50%. And if the inquiry drags on...
If the delay isn't the worker's fault, that allowance bumps up to 75% of your wages for the rest of the period.
That puts immense pressure on the employer to finish the inquiry quickly.
Exactly. It prevents indefinite suspension from being used as a weapon.
The second one was about reinstatement, Section 56.
Crucial. Let's say a tribunal says, give this worker their job back, but the employer appeals to the high court. That could take years.
And the worker starves in the meantime.
Not anymore. Section 56 says if the employer appeals a reinstatement order, they must pay the worker their full last drawn wages during the appeal.
Full wages, even if they aren't working.
Yes. If the worker isn't employed elsewhere, the employer has to pay their full salary while the appeal winds its way through the courts.
That completely changes the leverage. Filing a frivolous appeal just got very expensive.
Very.
This whole code, it feels like an exercise in structuring conflict. It's not pretending conflict won't happen.
That's the perfect way to put it.
It's just building these rigid channels for it to flow through.
Whether it's the negotiating council, the grievance committee, the strike notices, it's all about process. It's trying to move labor relations from shouting matches to structured negotiation.
And consolidating power. That 51% rule is a big deal.
It rewards unity among workers, but it also acknowledges when unity doesn't exist.
So we've unpacked a lot. This code is dense, but it's the reality for millions. It tries to balance that employer flexibility with these worker safety nets.
It's the framework that will define the Indian economy for the foreseeable future.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. We talked about that negotiating council, the one formed when no union has a majority. Does that structure actually encourage those different unions to find common ground? Or does it just create a gridlocked table where you have 3 or 4 factions who can't agree, and the employer is just stuck watching them argue?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Structure can solve a lot, but it can't mandate cooperation.
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Industrial Relations Code.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.